It is Friday, everybody. Welcome to Friday. It is Friday, October 9th, 2020. I am your host, as always, Mark Alvarado, and I'm welcoming you not just to Friday, but also to Closing Out the Week with the Closers podcast. You have made it. Hooray! Through another week. How has your week been? I will listen. Tell me now. You can even pause this and go on a giant soliloquy about your week, and then I'll answer. Okay, well, that was very interesting of you to say. If it was good, I'm glad your week has been good. Let's hope that it continues to be that way in the coming weeks, and hopefully for the rest of this year. Hopefully for the rest of your life. But if it hasn't been the best week, well, the first two pieces of news today aren't going to do much in helping you feel better, probably. But the last piece of news, depending on what you like in media, if you're a fan of the MCU in any capacity, and especially Spider-Man in any capacity, you're going to be pretty excited about the last piece of news I'm going to talk about. But the first thing I'm going to jump into is how the FBI apparently thwarted an alleged plot to kidnap the Michigan governor, Gretchen Whitmer. Yeah, people were trying to overthrow the Michigan government. Now let me read this. The FBI thwarted an illegal plot. Obviously, it's fucking illegal. What the hell am I saying? The FBI thwarted an alleged plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. A federal affidavit on Thursday described how a group of men allegedly discussed kidnapping the governor and bringing her to Wisconsin to stand trial, quote, for treason, end quote, before the 2020 presidential election. The plot involved conspirators who met during a Second Amendment rally and reached out to members of a Michigan militia known as the Wolverine Watchmen, of course. The Detroit News reported. 13 men have been arrested and several were charged with conspiracy to commit kidnapping. They allegedly conducted surveillance at Whitmer's vacation home twice. The FBI says 4 of the men plan to meet on Wednesday to make a payment on explosives and exchange tactical gear in a news conference. Whitmer accused President Trump of encouraging extremist groups like the, quote, sick and depraved men, unquote, who targeted her. Well, what do I have to say about this? There are many sides to, obviously, our political landscape today. A lot of people believe that the left is worse than the right and the right is worse than the left. And it's easy to look at stories like this and be like, you know, this is a win for the left, this is a loss for the right. Nobody wins here. Nobody wins in this story. There's no winners. Like, yes, okay, this isn't an instance of the left causing a crazy fucking disturbance like these, you know, right-leaning men. But what are we to gain from this? What's the positive? I'm a person who is a leftist. I consider myself one. And many of you who have listened to prior episodes definitely know that. But I'm not here cheering like, yeah, that'll show them. Like, we got him. We got him. We stopped a militia group from Michigan called the Wolverine Watchmen. Everybody, I don't feel good about this. This is fucked up. And a lot of people say, you know, Antifa, you have Antifa on one side and you have all these militia groups on the other. You know, and like Biden said, you know, I'm not one to agree with Biden, but I mean, he did say correctly that Antifa isn't necessarily a group that has like a hierarchy and that meets, you know, every other week over Zoom and they coordinate. Not really. That doesn't happen. Like, people just show up to rallies under the guise of Antifa. Whereas these people have meetings and they go to specific rallies And there's coordination behind everything that this group has done, and groups on the right, a lot of groups on the right that have followed this same sort of structure. Now, I'm not saying every group on the right is trying to kidnap governors. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying they have that type of structure. But to compare both sides and the severity, a lot of people, will point to the rioting and the protesting from the left, and don't really, want to brush aside a lot of this right wing, I'm going to call it what it is. It's terrorism, and they don't want to call it that because they're white people. So, white people can't be terrorists because in the 2000s we were all kind of, programmed through the media to believe that terrorists had to be a certain type of skin color in order to be called a terrorist. Well, that's not how it works. And a lot of people are, becoming cognizant of the fact that we were kind of, programmed that way in the 2000s to think that. A lot of people are coming out of it. I'm not saying that everybody believes that now, but there are definitely some people who catch themselves. I have been one of those people in the past, the very distant past, but past nonetheless. And it's just important to remember that, that term terrorist doesn't carry a racial weight, like the actual term. Popularly, it does, and that's not right. That is definitely changing as well. But these men are domestic terrorists who were trying to basically overthrow the Michigan government. That's what they wanted to do. And that is a huge threat to our democracy. I don't really see breaking windows hurting property. If you're comparing the two, kidnapping the governor and smashing a window and taking property from like a Starbucks or a Walmart, both are bad, yes. But one is highly worse. There's no contest. Human life versus property. What's worse? The human life, obviously. So that's all I have to say about that. Crazy story. I'm glad that the FBI were on this. It's been a tumultuous year in terms of law enforcement and the government, of course. To see them do something positive, for them, it's good. It's good PR. So we'll see what happens next. Now, to move into sports, we're not actually going to talk about sports per se, but we are going to talk about COVID and how it relates to the sports. We're just going to talk about NFL, how it relates to that. So, the Tennessee Titans have had like a slew of people test positive for COVID in the past week. As Quinn and I talked about back on the Wednesday show, they had to move the Tennessee game. I believe it was the Chiefs and Titans game. No, it was the Steelers and Titans game. They had to move that to week 7 of the NFL season because of all the crazy, COVID outbreak that swept the Titans. And now it's affecting the Buffalo Bills game because more people in the Tennessee Titans organization tested positive. So now that Tennessee versus Buffalo game is moved from Sunday to Tuesday. I don't know if there's been a NFL game played on a Tuesday before. But if not, this will be the first one. Or if if there have been other games, this will be the first one in a long time that was played on a Tuesday. So that's what's happening with the Tennessee-Buffalo game. If there are more positive cases in Tennessee or Buffalo, if Buffalo starts getting positive cases, they're probably going to cancel this game too and put it later on. They're going to have to figure out a way to do that. But Tennessee might get like 2 or 3 bye weeks. And if that's the case, they may just have to play a lesser schedule, which, we'll see what happens there. But that's not the only game that's moved. The Denver Broncos and New England Patriots game moved from Sunday night at like 4:15 Eastern time to Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So that game actually starts at like 2 Pacific time, which is pretty crazy. That's a very early game for a Monday. Usually you have like a Monday game start at like 4:30 Pacific time, and then you have you have the later games start at like 5:36. But no, they're going pretty early for this Broncos New England game. Um, so that's all I wanted to talk about. Also, the NFL, the coaches in the NFL apparently kind of started causing a little bit of a stir. The Coaches Association, and they suggested to the league to shorten the season to 12 games. That's not going to happen because that will affect the players a lot monetarily, and that will affect the league, the franchises a lot. So that's not going to happen. But in a perfect world, that's what the coaches want. And to see that that's really what the coaches want, that shows a lot. That they want to get through the season as quick as possible. They see the danger here. They see, the risk. So it's interesting to see how their perspective is on it. But I just want to say, before the season started, I wanted the NFL to do kind of like how the Major League Baseball did, and have the NFC West play the AFC West, have the NFC North play the AFC North, etc. And you have these 8 teams all be in a central location. So let's say, for the AFC and NFC West, you play in LA because you have multiple stadiums there. So you can play in major cities that have multiple facilities. Across the U.S., you have 4 facilities, four cities for each pairing of divisions. And then, so you would play your division twice and then the other division once. You shorten the season that way, right? That would be, that's 10 games. So maybe you play this other division twice too. I don't know how that would work. Other than that was my thought. I was hoping they would go in that direction just because it'd be safer, less traveling. And ultimately, that's the biggest concern, is the traveling. And that would definitely help if every single franchise is in one location. But they elected to go this way, and this is the consequence of that. That's the risk. So, everyone has to do better, especially the Tennessee Titans organization, and we'll see what happens in the future. And hopefully they can get their shit together, because I'm not trying to be without football. Personally, it does a lot for my mental health, honestly, to have it around. So I hope it's able to, I hope the NFL is able to last its entire season. We'll see what happens, though. And then last story of the week, before we get to the theme of the week, Jamie Foxx apparently is returning as Electro in Spider-Man 3. Yes, you heard that correctly. How is that for shocking news? Ooh. The next Spider-Man movie is getting a major jolt. Okay, Hollywood Reporter, thank you for that. I'm just reading off some Hollywood Reporter copy just because I wasn't able to write anything this time. Jamie Foxx, who played classic Spidey villain Electro in the Andrew Garfield starring The Amazing Spider-Man 2, is in final talks to reprise the role for the latest Spider-Man installment starring Tom Holland and being made by Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures. So story details are being kept under the mask, but having Fox return is a stunner, as it shows further melding of the previous Spider-Man movies into the current Holland series, which is the first one that that has Marvel running point on production. So Far From Home, of course, started the idea of bringing back characters from previous Spider-Man installments, starting with J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, and Fox played Electro in 2014's The Amazing Spider-Man. So he wasn't very revered in his portrayal as Electro from Amazing 2. A lot of people gave him shit for that, but I think that was more Sony than it was Jamie Foxx. Sony wanted him to be kind of that really CGI'd out character. It didn't really work. But Jamie Foxx is a great actor. And with the new direction that they're going to go in with this character, I can assume it's going to be really cool to see where he goes with this more grounded character of Electro, because I'm assuming he'll be more grounded. But that just begs the question, how are these characters all coming together? Because you have, I think his name's Morbius. I think that's his name. The Vampire, right? That's a movie that's in production. And you have Vulture from the MCU appearing in that movie. And then you have Electro appearing in this movie. And then you have J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson appearing in the MCU too. Everything from the past Spider-Man movies, it's becoming apparent that they're all being interconnected. Even Andrew Garfield. Which begs the question, will Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire be in a future Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland? My guess is yes. But from talking to Quinn, and we'll probably talk about this next week, but from talking to Quinn, what he gathers is that there's going to be a Spider-Verse multiverse trilogy. Or a 3-part multiverse setup. Starting with WandaVision, which will come out soon. I forget when exactly it's coming out, but soon. I believe this year in December. But it'll come out. That's definitely going to have to do with the multiverse because she's going to play a part, I believe, in the Multiverse of Madness, which is the new Doctor Strange movie that will come out next year. I believe it will come out next year. Not sure about the timeline. I'm not as adept to the timeline as Quinn is. But that's going to come out next, after WandaVision. And of course, it has multiverse in the name, and it's directed by Sam Raimi. So everyone's thinking Tobey's going to make an appearance in that movie, but we'll see. And then we have Spider-Man 3, which apparently, too, Benedict Cumberbatch is playing Doctor Strange in Spider-Man 3 as well, which means that possibly Tobey comes back in Multiverse of Madness, or Andrew Garfield, and he shows up in Spider-Man 3, or both of them, along with this version of Electro. Of course, we don't know exactly how. We don't know what's going to happen, what the terms of this crossover is going to be, but it's looking more and more apparent that this crossover really is happening. And the thought of seeing Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and Tom Holland all on the same screen playing different versions of themselves while like Doctor Strange is there and maybe Scarlet Witch and maybe the Hulk and maybe Daredevil, maybe She-Hulk, like this is a gigantic event. That is huge. Like this is all people want. This is all I've wanted ever since I was, ever since Tom Holland, danced across my screen in 2017, when Spider-Man Homecoming came out. Ever since that movie, I've wanted this specific thing to happen, and the fact that it really looks like it is, man, I cannot be more excited for a film. I really hope that this happens, and I told Quinn today, if they put the 3 Spider-Man on the screen and they're all bickering at each other, kind of like you have the older brother in Tobey Maguire, middle brother in Andrew Garfield, and then the little brother in Tom Holland, and they're all arguing amongst each other like brothers in a way, that would be one of the most iconic scenes in movie history. And I just really hope that comes to fruition. I really hope that Tobey and Andrew sign off and agree to reprise their roles, at least for one movie, just so we can see that. Just so everybody can finally have their piece. So that'd be really cool. And that's what this news points to. So I hope it happens. I really do. I know I've been running a little long just because I had to get my nerd talk out of the way. But it's time for the theme of the week. Yay. And the theme of the week for this week is calculated risk. Yes, calculated risk. Now, what is a calculated risk? A calculated risk is a risk that is very thought through. It's a very smart risk to take. It's a risk that has some pretty good upside, and you're okay with the downside if the worst comes to fruition, right? Okay. So how does this, tie into my week? How is this the theme of my week? Well, I started an internship in Berkeley this past week. And I mean, I live in Sacramento. It's in Berkeley. I'm going to have to commute a lot. Also, that might impact my school, right? Because I have to do Zoom classes. Right. But it is a risk that I have to take. You know, it's an unpaid internship too. So I'm not getting paid for a lot of things I'm going to be doing, at least in the beginning. But it's a risk that I must take in order to take steps forward. And there's sacrifices within that risk, right? What happens if I fail at this? And if I get fired from this internship because I can't accurately balance, you know, my school with the pod, with my music, with the internship, all those things, all those intermoving parts, and then you add in a commute. How, you know, the risk, there is risk there. Whether I falter in terms of the pod or I falter in terms of my school, I start getting bad grades. But at the end of the day, I'm given an opportunity, and I have to take that opportunity. It is a risk. It is a risk. And in life, you have to take risks. You have to. And this is the type of risk that you want to take. Something that I'm going to take a risk to try to better my future, right? There's people that take risks that are dumb. You know, I'm fucking drunk as hell, and I'm going to drive home. That's not a calculated risk. You're not calculating shit. What's the worst thing you could do is kill people in that situation, right? The best thing you can do is get home, but you're drunk, and you're going to wake up in the morning fucking hungover, most likely, if you make it home. It's not really that calculated of a risk, right? What I'm talking about is like my situation, and I just have seen in my life a lot of people, they want to play it safe. It's nothing but just the safe. I've fallen into that trap too. Playing it safe is not always the way to go. If you're trying to get anywhere, at least have some semblance of success. And I don't mean success as just money, but success as you're doing something that you love to do and you're able to be independent, right? Doesn't matter how much money you make, but if you're able to be independent, that's all that matters. And a lot of people want to play it safe the entire way through, but you have to take those calculated risks in order to truly be happy, and you have to bet on yourself. And I guess what I'm saying is I'm betting on myself in this internship. I'm betting on myself that I can make all of this work. You know, if you're doing the same currently, I'm proud of you. Keep doing that. Bet on yourself, because you're the only thing you can control in this world. And if you're going to really bet on something, why not bet on something you can control? That's what every person wants to do in betting. You wish that you could control your fantasy football team. You wish you had the joystick, right? You wish it was Madden, but you can't. Well, in life, you are the person that you can bet on, and you control every move you make. So make the right moves. Take the right risks. And that's been this episode of the Closing Out the Week. Hope you have a great weekend. Please follow the pod on Instagram at The Closers Podcast, on Facebook at Closers Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are The Closers Podcast. Share these episodes with your favorite people so we can build a community of favorite people. Because just imagine if, like, your favorite person meets mine, right? And in that way, we have a connection then. And you just get to meet so many different awesome people, right? That's the whole point. So definitely subscribe to the YouTube. You know, follow us everywhere else. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Pods, Stitcher, wherever else you get your pods. And Quinn will be back at you on Monday with Hang 10. He'll probably be talking more about Rams stuff. So we will see what he says on Monday. But in that meantime, I hope you have a great weekend, and take care and stay safe.